I'm John Batchelor. Mary Kissel, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, my colleague and host and friend, is here. She is also the host of Opinion Journal at WSJ Live, 1:30 p.m. East Coast time. Mary and I live and operate in Manhattan, in New York, in greater New York, in the boroughs of New York. And crime has, these last years, not been a threat to any of the prosperity in New York, even through the Great Recession. But until and if we hit a turn in the road, this is the exit of Mr. Bloomberg and Commissioner Kelly and the entrance of Commissioner Bratton, hired by Mayor de Blasio. That has presented us some anxiety these last months of the de Blasio administration. Now we see crime statistics that support our anxiety. Mary, we welcome Ed Hayes, our colleague, to comment on this, an attorney here in New York and our favorite Democrat. You have a quote from Mayor de Blasio. Please explain.
I do have a quote from Mayor de Blasio. But first, John, I just want to give the audience some numbers. 439 shootings in the first 5 months of the year. It's up 7.7%. But murders are up 17.7% by the same time last year. So Mayor de Blasio, he blames this spike on crime on what he calls, quote, gang and crew-related activities. So he concedes that shootings and murders and sexual assaults, by the way, are up. But he says, and here's another quote, he said, "It's nothing like New York had 15, 20 years ago, but something's persistent, particularly around gangs, and we have new strategies to go in there, both with aggressive policing, but also gang intervention," end quote. Eddie, how do you interpret that comment?
Well, he doesn't know much about fighting crime, and he sure as heck doesn't concern about the civil rights of people to live in those neighborhoods, because the essence of civil rights is to live safely and fairly. In any case, I don't know how you interpret it. Is it okay for one gang member to shoot another? I mean, is it okay for an innocent bystander to get shot as in between a gang shootout? I can't imagine this situation continuing, because it doesn't increase. It increases not just 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1, 2, 4, 8. Because once people start to see that there's no risk in carrying a gun, a lot more people will carry guns, and you have a lot more shootings.
Now, Eddie, this is the guy that said Black Lives Matter. But essentially what he's saying here is, well, some don't matter so much, because most of these gangs, let's be honest, they're minority mostly. Those lives don't matter to him or the bystanders.
You know, I hope that's not what
Am I going too far, Eddie? I mean, he's saying, hey, New Yorkers, you live in Manhattan, don't worry about it. You're okay.
I think that stop and frisk was an essential part of police, and it just needs to be better supervised and better trained. And I think we're going to have, if he doesn't do something right away, a return to substantial criminal activity.
Well, the mayor cannot refute stats. That's what Mary's referring to. And what did he say, 15 or 20 years ago? That would take us back to 1995. That was the beginning of Giuliani coming in after Mr. Dinkins had been mayor. And the crime in the mid-90s in Manhattan, in the neighborhoods that are extremely expensive to live in, was overwhelming. It was threatening. I was mugged in the 90s twice on the Upper West Side. Yes.
You're a tall, big guy.
It happens routinely. When they have a weapon, Mary, they're as tall as you are. Yes. And so fine. These things happened, and that was early Giuliani, and Bratton and other police commissioners addressed the matter very aggressively, and we saw crime. What was it, Mary? Was it 2,000 or 2,000 homicides go to 400?
Yeah, but this is what's so disturbing. I mean, up 17.7% from the same time last year, the first 5 months of the year.
It went down because Giuliani backed up Bratton and the police force. De Blasio is a critic of the police force, and he has set policies that are not consistent with cutting crime. That's just it. You don't like that? I mean, that's the reality. The people that voted for de Blasio, well, he's running for re-election. If you want to keep this up, vote for him again.
But his re-election, we have to be fair-minded about this. This is a Democratic city, and the Democrats don't even show up at the polls for the mayor's election because there's no contest.
What do you mean? The labor unions all showed up, and they were all Democrats. Come on, John.
Mary's being difficult. What she means to say is that the choice is made by the leaders of the labor unions, and chiefly Mr. de Blasio was chosen by the leader of the teachers union.
Who's a Democrat.
Who's a Democrat.
Okay.
So
Okay.
So we're not going for an election that's going to get an airing of the views, Eddie. There is no counter to Mayor de Blasio as long as he wants to stay in town. The only, in fact, way we could offload him would be Albany. I don't know if that's a success, Eddie.
Forget it. Forget it.
Well, I thought he was
in New York without having taken over the whole state.
Doesn't he want to run for president?
He does,
Eddie?
but de Blasio is on the way. Now, I understand we're making a little light of it, but there's a perception now that the police are not going to roust troublemakers in even the midtown business part of the city. That perception, Eddie, does that spread quickly in the groups that form up pack behavior? Do they figure it out right away?
They can see it right away, and they can see easy pickings. And remember, a lot of the packs are they're not brain surgeons. That makes it more likely that they think they can get away with it, and they try.
Eddie, stop and frisk. One of the critiques was some ridiculous percentage, 80-90%, doesn't result in an arrest. But are we learning now that the point of stop and frisk was to intimidate these criminals to keep the guns at home? And that's why the cops didn't find anything on these guys, because the guns were in the closet at home.
That was the theory. That's why they did it. You know, and I mean, remember, we have a very diverse police department now. So you have, for instance, you have 5,000 Dominican policemen, and they know what a dangerous street guy looks like. So at the time we talked about it, and we said it was a stupid move, and it turned out to be a stupid move, and there's a lot of dead people because of that.
Eddie, it's not going to get better by talking about it. Mayor de Blasio is in denial. I mean, Mary played a clip from the Stewart show.
Jon Stewart show.
He just threw it off. He threw it off as a crime stuff.
It's just gangs. It's just, blacks killing other blacks, Eddie.
Ed Hayes and Mary Kissel, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal and the host of Opinion Journal at WSJ Live each day at 1:30 p.m. We're not saying New York is unsafe. We're saying that we do not find it acceptable that we're watching deterioration of the success of the Bloomberg years. I'm John Batchelor.